Now, what we are looking at right here is a real security threat. Why? Here I have my API keys for 4 different social media platforms exposed so that anybody can basically use them who has access to the code. If I go to this repository on GitHub, where is it? RubyGems Bootcamp. I open the file device.rb, and anybody will be able to see my API keys and also use them or misuse them. Now, when you're using API keys of different social media accounts, there is a different quota of how many times you can use them. For example, there can be a limit of 10,000 logins per day, and somebody can misuse your login thresholds. Or there can be other types of misusing your API keys. So you shouldn't let them stay just standing like this. You should hide them. Or for example, if you're using API keys for AWS, if somebody misuses your API keys, you will get billed quite a lot. So to hide our API keys and to use such information more correctly, we're going to use Ruby on Rails 6 credentials. Now here in my blog post, I have a short article on how to use them, and we're going to go through it now. So at the moment in our application, we have our API keys exposed, and we're going to hide them. We're going to mask them, actually. And here, if we go to application, config, we're going to generate a credentials YML file. So to do this, we're going to type editor vim Rails credentials edit. Or if you're doing it locally, you can just type Rails credentials edit. So let's do it. I press Ctrl L. I type in this command. And here you see, I have a new credentials YML file generated and a master key generated. Now, when you just create a new Rails app, you already have a credentials YML key created by default. So I have this key, this credentials YML file and master key. Let's have a look at them. If I just open credentials YML, then it is an encrypted file. And this master key is kind of the password that is used to open this file. So when you type Rails credentials edit, your Rails application takes your master key and decrypts your credentials YML and opens it in Vim like this. So this is how this file can look. Now, what do we have here? As an example, we have AWS, the ID, and the secret key. So we're going to move our API keys from device.rb into this file. But now, let's go once again to see how this file works. I will exit this file, I will press escape, then this sign, WQ, enter. What if I, let's say, edit the master key? I will type something else on top. I will try to open, and you see I cannot open this file because basically the master key doesn't match. If I delete the master key and try to edit the file, then you see a new master key is generated, but this master key is going to be new. It doesn't know, it isn't the right password for this credentials YML file. So if you deleted or lost your master key, then you'll never be able to open this credentials YML file. And it would be good for you to keep this master key somewhere locally on your computer because it doesn't get committed to a GitHub repository automatically, of course, for security. So now I'm going to delete this credentials YML file that was created by default, delete the master key, and regenerate them once again by typing editor vim Rails credentials edit. Here I have this file. And let's try adding some credentials here. So in device we have, let's say, Twitter. Inside of Twitter, we will have the ID, this ID, and we will have secret. And I will copy the secret. Okay, now I will exit. I press escape, then this sign, WQ to exit with saving, and I press enter. And I will try to go to the Rails console and access this Twitter ID or secret. So to do this, I would go to type Rails application credentials dig, Rails application credentials dig. It will be Twitter. What if I just type Twitter? You see, we get both the ID and the secret. If I type Twitter and ID, we get this ID. So to device RB, we can go and replace these two real API keys with Rails application credentials dig, Twitter ID, and Twitter.secret, like this. Let's see if it works in the server. I will go exit Rails server, and I will try to log in with Twitter. Log in, Twitter, and you see it works correctly. So in my device RB, I don't have the credentials anymore. I have them in the credentials YML file. And with this command, I find the Twitter ID and the Twitter secret. But what if we have two different API keys for development and production, like we have in GitHub? Well, we'll do it slightly differently. So we will make like this. We will have to go back to our credentials file. We'll edit this file. And for GitHub, we will have two environments, development and production. And we're going to have the ID and the secret for each of them. So for production, we have this ID and this secret. And for development, we have this ID and this secret. Okay, so I press escape, this sign, WQ, enter. Okay, now we need to dig to these credentials together with the environment variable. How can we do it? Well, let's go to our console, Rails console, Control L and C. So here I have a short guide on how to do it. We can just add Rails environment to sim. What is this? If we just type Rails environment, we get development. But we need the key to look like development. So that's to make it so, we should add to sim. You see. So we will get Rails application credentials. Then we get Rails env to sim, and we have nil. Because first we put GitHub. So we put git. You see, we get the GitHub ID and secret for development. But actually, it would be more correct if we go back to Rails credentials edit and put development and production as first level, and GitHub will be as second level. So here we will put GitHub ID and secret, and here we'll put production, GitHub ID and secret, because possibly later in the application we will be using development and production a lot. Okay, and this will be removed. So we have development, GitHub ID and secret, production, GitHub ID and secret, and Twitter is the same for development and production. Okay, we exit this file. And let's go back to the console and try to find the credentials. So we just type Rails application credentials and we'll see all the credentials for the development environment. You see we have GitHub, the ID and secret. Now we will pass additionally GitHub. And you see the ID and secret for GitHub. And if we pass additionally ID, here we have the ID. So we're going to take this and add it here. So config.omniauth GitHub, and here we'll have Rails application credentials env2sim with the ID and with the secret. And we can totally remove this line. To remove a line, I press Ctrl-D in Cloud9. So let's see if this works. Let's exit and start the server. Okay, now I will try to log in development with GitHub. And it works. Now, as your homework, you should do the same. You should make the credentials secret for Google and for Facebook. So you should move these API keys into the credentials file. And I'm going to do it on my own. You'll be able to see the results after you finish this lesson and look at the final source code of this lesson. So that's it. Basically, we went through using the credentials file, the master key file, generating credentials, moving the credentials from device to the credentials file. And I also recommend you to go through the short article on my blog where everything is also explained. So thank you. Goodbye.